They call you a dreamer, the one with big plans that never go anywhere. And if you've spent years building ideas in your head that nobody's ever seen finished, you've probably heard some version of this more than once, not always out loud. Sometimes it's just a look. A pause when you mention the plan again. The question nobody asks anymore because they already know the answer. Here's the thing nobody explains to you. For most people, an idea moves almost in real time. They think it, they test it, they adjust, they move. Their risk assessment system barely engages, not because they're braver than you, but because they're running fewer calculations before they let themselves act. Someone can launch a half-built business on a Tuesday post, the first draft before it's ready, send the email before they've reread it 5 times. They figure out the rest later in public in motion. For them, the plan and the action happen close together, almost the same gesture. You don't work that way. And for years, that's looked like the difference between people who do things and people who just talk about doing them. It isn't. But to understand why you have to sit with the accusation first, not skip past it like you usually do. You don't finish things. People have noticed. Maybe they've stopped asking about the plan altogether because they've learned the answer is always some version of still working on it. Maybe there's a version of you from 5 years ago who said this would be done by now, and that version is still waiting. And they're not entirely wrong to notice. Something genuinely is stalling that part is real, and pretending otherwise insults what you already know about yourself. Here's what's actually stalling it. Psychologist Barry Schwartz, who spent years studying decision-making, found that the more outcomes a mind can generate for a single choice, the harder that choice becomes to make. Not because the person is weak, because the cost of choosing wrong feels heavier the more clearly they can see it coming. You're not stuck because you can't decide. You're stuck because you can see too many futures at once, and committing to one means killing the rest of them quietly before they ever got a chance. That's not indecision. That's a brain that refuses to move on incomplete information, and most people's brains never even ask for complete information in the first place. They act then adjust. You're still waiting for the picture to finish forming. But there's a second layer underneath that one, and it's harder to admit. You tell yourself the plan needs one more piece, one more skill, one more version before it's ready to be seen by anyone but you. And somewhere along the way that became permanent. Not a status update anymore, an address you live at. I sat on a plan for 2 years once, rewrote it 11 times. Told myself the timing wasn't right, the product wasn't right, I wasn't right yet. Every version was technically better than the last, cleaner, more thought through, harder to criticize. A friend looked at the 11th draft and said something short, almost offhand. You're not refining a plan. You're refusing to find out. I launched 3 weeks later. Not because the plan got better, because I ran out of ways to avoid the answer. Researchers Gordon Flett and Paul Hewitt, who've spent decades studying perfectionism, found that people who hold themselves to extremely high standards are significantly more likely to delay action altogether. Not because the work scares them, because starting before it's perfect feels like proof they were never good enough to begin with. Each revision buys another week of not finding out. You weren't protecting the plan from failure. You were protecting yourself from finding out. And underneath even that is the real engine. As long as it's still a dream, it can't be rejected. It can't underperform. It can't say anything true about you. The moment it becomes real, it stops being potential and starts being a verdict. Psychologist Martin Covington, who built what's now called self-worth theory, found something almost everyone recognizes the second they hear it. People will quietly withhold effort on purpose because failing without trying can be blamed on the lack of effort. But failing after trying hard gets blamed on a lack of ability. One feels survivable. The other feels like evidence permanent and specific about exactly what you're capable of. Your brain isn't lazy. It's running a cost-benefit analysis, where staying in the dream phase is the only version of this where you remain undefeated. There's one more piece most people miss entirely, and it has nothing to do with the plan itself. It's about who's watching. Psychologist Leon Festinger, who developed social comparison theory back in the 1950s, found that people constantly measure their own progress against others, often without realizing they're doing it. And the bigger the dream, the more public the measuring becomes. A small goal fails quietly. A big one fails in front of an audience you've already imagined judging you. So the dream stays private, gets revised in silence, never reaches the stage where someone else could watch it not work out. It's not that you don't want people to see you succeed. It's that some part of you has already calculated exactly how it would feel to be watched failing and decided the planning stage was safer than that audience. So here's the question I need you to sit with. Is it really the plan that's not ready, or is some part of you protected by staying in the planning stage where you can't fail yet, where nobody's watching yet, where the verdict hasn't been delivered yet? Both look identical from the outside. Only you know which one it is. If you're a man, this lands harder. People expect the plan to turn into proof and fast. Silence on progress doesn't read as caution to them. It reads as failure, even while you're still building something nobody can see yet. The pressure to perform momentum, not just have it, makes the stall feel more shameful than it actually is. And if you're a woman carrying the same pattern, the cost shows up differently. The plan gets quietly shelved under maybe someday filed away as practicality instead of named as fear, because that version is easier for everyone else to accept. Somewhere underneath all that planning, you already know the plan was never the problem. You were just waiting to find out if you could survive it being real. Which sign hit closest the simulation, the perfection, the protection, or the audience you've already imagined watching? Drop it in the comments. And if you know someone who's been about to start for years, send them this. Follow for more on the psychology of quiet intensity.